I would like to call the Finance, Ways and Means Appropriations Subcommittee to order on Monday, April 5th, 2021. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Representatives Campbell, Faison, Garrett, Hazelwood, Hicks of Hawkins, Lamar, Miller, Sexton of Granger, Shaw, Sparks, Zachary, Chairman Williams.
Here.
Chairman, you have quorum.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, do the members have any personal orders before we get started? Seeing none, we're going to get right to business. We have a couple here, and then as members trickle in the wait, we'll take members of the committee in alphabetical order since it's easier to do that, except for Representative Lamar, who begged to be first. But with that being said, we're going to go out of session. First up, page 8 on your addendum list, item number 117. Representative Love, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. That item refers to a request for $1 million for a scholarship to be allocated to the Tennessee State University Foundation to endow a scholarship specifically for students that would be in possible purge situation where they might not have the balance to be paid, and this would allow the university to be able to keep those students enrolled. A few years back, the university did receive money for the similar scholarship, but it was not sent to the TSU Foundation. As a result, once it was spent out, there was no other money there. So the hope here is to put it into an endowment at the foundation and let the interest be what is used to pay for those student scholarships.
Thank you, Representative Love, for your description. Any questions for Representative Love? So as the endowment, I have a question for you. As the endowment is set, is it based upon a capped amount per student, or could one student cover the shortfall with whatever the allocation it was from the endowment for that year?
The goal would be not to have one student's particular balance absorb the entire amount of the endowment. For example, if we put $1 million into the endowment and it generates 10% interest, you're talking about $100,000. So you're talking about no student would have more than $3,000 or $4,000 in a balance, and that was the average that we had a few years back, where students had low amounts of $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000, and they paid those balances with those students. So to answer your question, no student will be able to take the entire amount off.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Representative Love? Seeing none, thank you, Representative Love, for coming today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Next up on the list is Representative Kelly, or Chairman Kelly Kiesling. For the members, he's on page 7, item number 100, page 7, item number 100. Chairman Kiesling with the scalloped pockets and a new haircut. You're looking dapper today. The podium's fine, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. Those words were well received. I appreciate that, committee. This isn't the first time that this request has come before this committee. The amendment that we're asking, $500,000, will be going to the Department of Tourism for the sole purpose of creating a grant application to provide relief to our Tennessee marinas across the state. Now, again, this is Mountain City to Memphis. Currently, these marinas that sit on our Tennessee waterways provide an important role in tourism, of course. So this role helps in facilitating millions of dollars to our state and local budgets. The budget amendment will help in assisting these marinas in their continued support of tourism at the local and state levels. And of course, you all know what's going on. The double taxation, property taxes, and they get hit from the core also in use tax. So this is something that that this committee, and for that matter, our legislature, supported throughout the past year. So we do ask your consideration on this.
Thank you, Chairman Kiesling. Anything? Seeing none, Chairman, you're exactly right. We have, except with the exception of last year, have supported it. It does help dozens of marinas across the state as it relates to the shortfall associated with it. Look forward to continuing the discussion. Seeing no other questions, Chairman Kiesling, we thank you for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Next, members, on page 12 of your amendment packet, starting with item number 173, Speaker Sexton has walked in. Speaker Sexton, you are recognized on your budget amendments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are we on amendment 110?
I have 110.
110?
Yep.
Okay. So 110 is for City of Spencer. As most people recall, Fall Creek Falls Inn is being renovated, restored, tore down, rebuilt. It should be open sometime the end of this fall. This would continue where we hold them harmless for their hotel motel tax revenue that they've lost as we're going through that process.
Okay. Speaker, you are recognized on your next one.
So on Amendment 111, that is up in Representative Holsley's district. Over a decade ago, they were doing some renovations to Warriors Path State Park. Recreation Hall, they were short of money, and so they couldn't do all the renovations they wanted. This would simply allow them to do the rest of those renovations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will say, as a former resident of Sullivan County, I was at Warriors Path State Park a lot. There's a place there called Duck Island, and you can get chased by more ducks than you've ever seen in your life. Also, it's a great state park. You probably know this. They have a really good golf course there as well. So look forward to supporting that. And next, do you have, I think you have.
112?
Yes, 112.
So Budget Amendment 112 is establishing a virtual tour of part of the Justin P. Wilson Cumberland Trail. We just passed that into law. And so this budget appropriation would help to kind of do that at the head of the trail.
Thank you. Next on the list, item 112, I believe it is. No, I'm sorry, 224. My apologies.
So 224, if you go back and look in the state budget, the governor funded 10 positions of the state troopers. They requested 25. This would add the other 15 into the budget.
Thank you. And finally, House Amendment 225.
225 is also Department of Safety. In conversations with them, they would like to add additional troopers to the EPU unit. This would allow them to have 8 more additional troopers to the EPU unit.
Thank you.
Which is executive protection.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Do any members of the body have any questions for the Speaker? Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Speaker, as I look at these requests, I think these are some pretty good requests you're making here. And it's my understanding that the governor has put into his appropriations for the legislative appropriation, 15 million. I may be off on that, I'm not sure, but maybe we can get him to double that, because if we got to meet a whole lot of requests, we need to have him to double this. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, thank you.
Speaker
And the one I did leave off, it didn't have a number, was funding three comptroller attorney positions to help with fraud, to help them go fight cases. There's DA don't have enough resources, so this would allow them to go do some of that as well. So there's another budget amendment. I doesn't have a number on my sheet, but y'all might have it. What I will say is to your question, Representative, I think it's about 18 million in the budget that we have right now between the House and Senate, and we have asked for additional resources due to the amount of one-time money that we've had. So we're hopeful that maybe we will be able to increase that number a little bit.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Speaker? Thank you, Speaker Sexton. Next on our list, I see he's coming to the room. Representative Chairman Jay Reedy. For the members, page 12, item 170. Representative Reedy, you're recognized.
Yeah, it's thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Its drafting code on it was 4910. This pertains to the military, and I'm going to read for clarity. This budget amendment is for $500,000 non-reoccurring to be granted to Clarksville, Montgomery County Schools to be used for the procurement of a program designed to support students who are children of military parents. The desired end is to deploy a common set of high-quality digital education capabilities at CMCSS, Clarksville Montgomery County School System, to ensure consistent, flexible, individualized education services and ease of transition for a military-connected family. Because this population is so transient, having a program in place that allows for the seamless transfer between districts is of paramount importance. This reduces the number of redundant assessments and the number of hours spent by students doing assignments that they have had already completed in another state or school district. Similar programs are offered at 44 military impacted school districts across the nation. Connecting Clarksville Montgomery County School System with this network will benefit many parents and students in and around my district, and I thank you for your consideration in this request.
Thank you, Representative Reedy. Any questions for Representative Reedy for the members? Seeing none, thank you, Representative
sir.
Reedy, for coming today. Now to the members of the committee that sit on this committee, Representative Lamar, you are recognized for the members, page 7, item number 101. Page 7, number 101. Representative Lamar, you recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. This is an organization that allows independent artists the proper process to help them get their licensing for their music and their different projects, but also to help them secure jobs. So this organization has done a lot to make sure independent artists who you consider struggling artists are able to secure jobs, secure proper employment, get paid for the music that they put out, and ultimately contribute back to Memphis's economy. So they've had support in the past. We hope that you continue to support them. And the next item is, can I speak on 102? Item 102 is $1 million request for the Department of Education. For the last couple of sessions, you've been hearing me pushing more funding for lead testing and remediation. So I understand that we get the WIN grant funding from the federal government, which provides $1 million in funding for lead testing for schools all across the state. However, there's no funding to remediate the lead sources that we find to be contaminated. So what this does is create another fund on the back end to help correct the problems for the sources that have lead in them. Since we pay for testing, we also need to pay to fix them as well. So this is what this appropriation is going to be used for. And with that, that's explanation of my appropriation amendments that I submitted.
Thank you, Representative Lamar. Do the members have any questions for Representative Lamar? Seeing none, we're going back to the top of the list. Item number 10 on page 1. Representative Campbell, Scotty Campbell, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Rocky Mount State Historic Site in Piney Flats, also known as the Cobb Massengale House, was the first territorial capital of the Southwest Territory. And we have been presented with an opportunity to extend the site's grounds by acquiring a piece of the original Cobb farm that's adjacent to Rocky Mount. And that's what this would do. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Campbell. Any questions for Representative Campbell? Seeing none, Representative Campbell, I have stopped at Rocky Mount as a kid and ate at the Partners Barbecue there too. Great place, especially for kids. Thank you for that. Next on the list, we have Representative Garrett here. Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
I will go. Thank you, sir. May not be in any certain order. I don't even know what page I'm on, but you're going to tell us page?
Page 12, just got there. Page 12, item number 180.
Page.
Followed up with a plethora on the following page 13.
Page 12, it is a request for $20,000 for the to assist the women in their transitioning of housing for the Hope Recovery Center back in Jackson, Tennessee. They are in need of housing, and this would assist them, this budget amendment.
Thank you.
Go to page 13. If I can find my name up here somewhere, I think there I am. Okay. On page 13, item 181, the Lane College Dragon Academy is where they teach students not only how to better learn in school, but how to get in the community and work through a program where they provide healthy services for senior citizens, in terms of teaching them how to administer their medicine and things of that nature. And that would be through Lane College in Jackson for $80,000. And then item number 182, that's for the El Canaan Help Organization to preserve the Rosenwald schools. There were several Rosenwald schools that were built for people of color back in the day across the state of Tennessee, and they was actually funded through the Sears and Roebuck, the Rosenwald Company. And we're trying to preserve that property and make it a community center that would provide all of the services that the town of Whiteville and that community needed. You could find out about those services at that location. It would also teach training for proper dressing for jobs, et cetera, and so forth. And that budget amendment is for $150,000. Then there was the Dream Center in Jackson, housing and counseling and assistance for families and for women that are homeless. We're asking $25,000 for that one. And then 184 would be for the University of Tennessee Institute. The ag program, we're asking $600,000 for that program. And that is at the new 4-H farm in Hardeman County that we just bought, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, if you recall. And that would also help to support a STEM cell school out there on the 4-H property as well. That is for $600,000. And that concludes Shaw's budget report.
Thank you, Representative Shaw. What a fine job it was too. Do the members have any questions for Representative Shaw? Chairman Faison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Representative Shaw, I actually have a Rosenwald school in my district. I think it was the first one built in Appalachias. And I was going to let you know that I will help you with your budget minimum if you'll give me half of that for my Rosenwald school.
I don't know if I'll give you half, but I'd sure buy you a sandwich.
Interesting how the committee barters on unfunded amendments. Any other questions for Representative Shaw? Chair Lady Hazelwood, you are next up on the list. Your first budget amendment is on page 5 of the committee's list. Item number 82. For the members, Chair Lady Hazelwood, you're recognized. It may or may not be.
First one.
Microphone, please, Chair Lady.
For Hamilton County government, this is a non-recurring. For Hamilton County government, this is a non-recurring $2 million. There's a partnership that has been formed in Hamilton County, a public-private partnership. The county has put in a significant amount of dollars. The American Contractors General Agency has put in dollars, a number of other private sources to build a VOTEC school for the trades, which, it's fairly self-serving for the contractors because they need these folks to come into those jobs so that they can hire them. And again, they have the facility, they have the property, and this would be just the state's input into that. Next, I have for the Tennessee Board of Regents. Is that what you have next?
Yes, Chair.
We have a number of campuses, TCAT campuses, that are standalone, and currently they do not have on-site security at many, if any of these. This amendment would allow TBR to hire a system police chief, if you will, for the entire system, and also to provide some on-site security at these TCATs. There have been situations, students, these are adult students, some of them get upset over various issues, and there have been some kind of sticky situations where the college president or the TCAT president has had to get involved in their, they're really not trained for that. So that would allow them to address those issues. Then I want to thank, I think, just about everybody on this committee and many members who have signed on for the DIDs that we've been working on collectively for a long time. And there's a bill that would bring this up to their pay up by 2025 to $15 an hour. And then at that point would tie those raises to state raises. And on the off chance that that $80+ million bill does not get through the budget process, this is a backup amendment to bring the pay up to $12.50 for this current year, and those are recurring dollars.
Thank you. You have on the next page two more,
I
I think.
do.
Mhm.
We heard in TennCare budget hearings in our finance full committee, when we had budget hearings, there was a proposal by TennCare that would cut 340B drug program appropriations. And this is going to be a heavy hit to our safety net hospitals, but it could be a crushing blow, frankly, to rural hospitals. So the amount is sum sufficient because we're not quite sure at this point what that sum would be, but the purpose of this amendment would be to make those entities whole so that we could continue to provide services in the rural areas and provide services through those safety net hospitals. And finally, wait a minute. Oh, this is yes. I hope that a number of you got emails from a lot of small business people in your area about this. But there is SBIR funding from the federal government, but it requires a state match. That funding it's been minimal. We didn't have it for a while, then we've did put some monies into it, but there are more requests, and they're vetted requests. There are businesses that have proved that they could use the money and use it well. There's more of those requests than there are funds. So this would put in $5 million to that. It still wouldn't cover probably all of the requests that are out there, but it would certainly help. And it would certainly help in a time when our small businesses have been particularly hard hit by the pandemic. There are many of them that are, have some great ideas, and they're still maybe in early stages. And this $5 million could be the difference, or these grants from the $5 million could be the difference from those going under or actually becoming viable businesses that provide employment for a number of Tennesseans.
Thank you, Chair Lady Hazelwood. Any members have questions for Chair Lady Hazelwood? Representative Miller, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Madam Lady, Chair Lady, you mentioned $5 million request, and it is recurring. But you also said that these would be matching funds. So if this is a $5 million request, would the, I guess, match from federal government be additional 5, which would bring it to 10?
I think the match is greater than 1-to-1, but I'm sorry, I don't have that information. But and we don't get any money, obviously, from the feds if we don't put up state funding. But I believe that the match is more than 1-to-1.
Okay. And the next question would be this. Let's say we were able to do this. But since it's recurring, the next year, if we put up matching funds with the SBIR dollars, would they still be available?
Yes, those dollars have been available for a number of years from the federal government. For several years, we didn't participate in that program, but the Department of ECD, the Department of Economic Community Development, and through Launch Tennessee specifically, has looked at those and has been managing that process for the last couple of years. And it's been very successful in that we've had a number of businesses apply and qualify. Again, the problem has been that we didn't have enough money to help everybody that was qualified.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just as a side note, Launch Tennessee has offices in many of our districts across the state. They provide financial support, sometimes office support, really. They do in my district. So if young entrepreneurs are looking for a place to sit down and grow their business, it gives them an opportunity to do that, and also gives them a platform by which they can solicit for private equity investment if they can as well. Representative Shaw, you had a question for Chair Lady.
Just a quick comment, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say to Chair Lady, the security for the tech schools, I think is very important. I'm surprised we haven't had more issues than what we've had. I surely hope we can get that. Thank you.
Chair
Thank
Lady
you.
Hazelwood. Do you have a follow-up?
Just a thank you.
Yeah. You're exactly right, Representative Shaw. This was actually a request by THEC this year. I think it was, or for TBR, I'm sorry, was a request this year that was not funded in the general budget. And so they saw the need. It was a priority for them as well as far as their request is concerned. And so I do think it's important, and particularly in to follow up also on Chair Lady Hazelwood's House Amendment 52, which is the 340B program. In my district, these 340B programs are a lifeblood as it relates to that. The actual sum sufficient number that TennCare testified that was going to be cut in this program, which would be only the state dollar, was $17 million statewide. And so, as you know, we claw back more than one time those funds from federal funds. So I think it's really important for us to have a discussion about that as well.
Chairman. if I-
Yes, Chair Lady Hazelwood.
I just wanted to point out on the TCAT, they did request that funding in the original budget. It wasn't funded. This is a scaled back version of that.
Okay.
This would not have a security officer necessarily at each location, but they would have at least roving people, and they have people that they would have to be able to call to get there when they needed them. But it's not the full request that was originally presented to the governor.
Thank you. Any other questions for Chair Lady Hazelwood? Seeing none, Chairman Hicks, you are recognized. Same page, members, page 6, item number 88. Chairman Hicks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, I'll start with Amendment 16. Amendment 16 is for the Department of Economic and Community Development. This is funding for the state's 9 development districts and provides counties and cities with planning and development services. This was in the budget last year as a non-recurring amount, and so we're just trying to get this back in. This was cut, I guess, 2 years ago, and so we're trying to get it back in on a recurring basis of $203,900. So that's the first one. The next one is number 36, Amendment number 36. That's for the Tennessee Wildlife Federation. This is for the Federation's Hunters for the Hungry program, a very worthwhile program that the state has invested in for the past couple of years. So we're hoping to get that in a non-recurring basis. Moving right along to number 96. So Amendment number 96 is for the City of Kingsport. This is for planning and coordination of higher education, workforce development programs, services, and activities there in the Upper East Tennessee area. So it would provide all this planning and coordination within that Northeast region. And that's for $250,000. Next is Amendment number 97. This is for CHI Memorial Hospital Foundation, the Breathe Easy Tennessee program, and additional lung screening mobile coaches. And this would be a 4.5 non-recurring appropriation. And then finishing up, item number 92 that I have, it's Amendment number 134. It's for the East Tennessee State University. And we've talked a lot about those capital projects. ETSU has been on the capital projects list for ever since the inception of the process they're doing now in 2017. ETSU has been passed over for the past couple of years. So this would be for demolishing an old infrastructure for an academic classroom there on the campus of ETSU for a tune of $52 million non-recurring. Stand to answer any questions.
Thank you, Chairman Hicks. Any questions for Chairman Hicks? Chairman Miller. Representative Miller. So many chairmen, it's hard to keep up with.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Hicks, on item 88, the $203,000 for funding for state 9 development districts. Could you explain a little bit more on that one?
Yeah, so these are all across, I think there's 9 of them. It's all across the state. So there was 203, this amount was cut 2 years ago. So this is the amount that was cut. This is putting it back in, and this will be spread out among all the 9 districts. So this will be spread out from Mountain City to Memphis. This will be spread out to all of them.
Mr. Chairman, is that enough of a request? I mean, when you think of 9 district, 203,000, that doesn't add up to much monies to operate with.
Representative Miller, what happened is each district was based upon need because each development district, I think, are different sizes.
Okay.
And so in this instance, in these regional planning offices or these folks in areas where there was rural, they didn't have the ability to hire their own staff as it relates to looking at projects. And so they could go to the development district. Development district would help them prioritize road projects and things as it relates to the RPO in their community. It was a good way to get things on a list as it related, and particularly with roads for TDOT. I know that one of the first RPOs in the state was done through a development district in Putnam County. I won't tell you how long it's taken to get that project funded because it might discourage us from funding this, but it was a good opportunity for rurals because they didn't have the access to these kinds of services. Chair Lady Hazelwood.
Well, and I might just make the point to Representative Miller that this is just restoring some cut funding. There's a significant amount of funding in addition to this. This is just the dollars that were cut 3 years ago that we're trying to get back in on a recurring basis.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Any other questions for Chairman Hicks? Seeing none, we're going to go back on your schedule to page number 4. Leader Garrett, you are recognized on page number 4, item 55, House Amendment 101.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is House Amendment 101, and it deals with our former chair, Charles Sargent's sort of pilot program. He met with the folks there in Franklin with the recovery courts and realized that Vivitrol is an injectable medication to help people struggling with opioid and alcohol addiction. The reason why that's so important is that injection lasts for 28 days. There's, of course, other oral medications that can do the same thing, but the reason why this is such an important, vital part of these recovery courts is that one injection lasts for that long, so you don't have to remember to take something every day. So this started as a pilot program, but now it becomes funded several years since. And in 2019, Governor Lee provided a $1 million recurring dollars for the portion of this program. And in that same year, appropriated another $1.5 million in non-recurring dollars to complete the governor's appropriation. Of course, last year, a thing called COVID took place. And while the recovery courts received the recurring dollars, they did not receive the additional non-recurring dollars. So that's why this appropriation is at $2 million instead of $1 million to kind of make up for that effort from last year. So it's an important piece of our folks here in Tennessee to go through these recovery courts and have this treatment available because of how it lasts. So it's very, very vital to these folks that are suffering from any kind of opioid and drug addiction to be able to have Vivitrol as a choice. So with that, I'll be glad to take any questions for this particular amendment that I hope you all see the importance of, and we can make it part of the budget. So I appreciate that.
Any questions for Leader Garrett? Never hurts to recognize Charles Sargent was supportive of something in this committee. Anyways, yes. Seeing no other questions for the members, we're going to go to page 9.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, thank you very much. Page number 9, Representative Miller is competing with one other member for the most. So here we go. Yes. Representative Miller, you are recognized on item number 33, House Amendment 169.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I put these in priorities, starting with item?
Yes, all 2 of them. Thank you.
Starting with item 140, which is $1 million. It's non-recurring, but it's need-based scholarship program services focused on student retentions at these independent institutions. You know, you have students where they may be able to do their freshman, sophomore year, junior year, and for whatever reason economically, they have to say, okay, I can't afford or whatever to stay and graduate. So these dollars would help in that fashion. Then I'll go to number 2, which is what we call the HBC Wellness Project that partners with community-based organizations, and it goes back to the independent institutions for $1 million, non-recurring. And item number 3, which is 135, Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It's been about several legislators now that have put in appropriation requests for the same organization, which is statewide. And what I tried to do is to come up with requests that would have statewide implications. That's item number 3. And I'm not going to even talk about well, yes, I will. I'll go to item number where there's a request for $2 million. That's item number 5, Tennessee Commission on Aging and Disability, providing grants to registered community centers throughout the state. In each grant division, used for equipment, programs, and services. And then the last one would be another $2 million request, Department of Finance Administration, item 133, providing grants to registered community centers throughout the state. Each grant division, again, to be used for equipment, programs, and services. That would be my request, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Miller, for your brevity. Any questions for Representative Miller? Representative Miller, I see no questions. I have marked those in the order in which you presented them. Look forward to talking about those further. Next on the list in the committee, next up is Representative Sexton, page 12 of your list, item number 178, House Amendment 139.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is, it's to help establish 3 new medical residency programs in our rural community hospitals. We all know that live in the rural areas that our hospitals are having a hard time, and this would help us in many different ways to support our rural hospitals. It's also important to our community and the doctors that we're putting out in our local university there at LMU. The next one is Amendment 140, and that's the Bean Station Utility District of Granger County. We had, back 20 years ago, when the 4-lane come through, we started experiencing flooding, and it was not addressed for many years. So when I was elected 7 years ago, I started getting calls and started working with TDOT. We've done many studies trying to find out where the water was coming from because it was flooding 2 of our communities. And so we've done all of that work. TDOT has agreed to do right around $1 million worth of work, but the City of Bean Station has to move the water lines, and that's what this money is being asked for. It takes $145,000 to get those water lines moved so TDOT can do their work. We've got 2 communities that are having septic problems and everything else for many years now, but this would take care of it. And that's all. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Representative Sexton. Any questions for Representative Sexton? Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Sponsor of the budget amendment, I had a similar problem in my neighborhood, and you might want to check to see if there's not some kind of grant for that moving of those particular things, just so you'll know as a backup, because I think that's what we wind up getting, some kind of grant to do that. And I'm not for sure. I need to research where I got it from if you need that information.
Representative Sexton.
Thank you, Representative Shaw. Yes, that is a possibility, something that we've looked into. The problem that I'm running into right now is we've got TDOT agreed to do this, and if we don't move very quickly, they're going to have to do another cost estimate and everything. So, but at the same time, we are going that direction, and I will be contacting you for that information. Thank you.
Representative Higgs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Representative Sexton, thank you for bringing this. I got to see this firsthand about 2 weeks ago during all the rain. And so the exact area you're talking about, when I go home each day on Thursdays, I go right through this area, and it is a wet spot, to say the very least. So I know these folks up there appreciate you bringing this to us. And so thank you very much.
Representative Sexton.
Just on a side note, I appreciate that, Representative Hicks, very close to your district as well. We have a number of elderly people that live in these two communities, and I just feel a sense of urgency to try to get something done for them. They feel like they don't have anybody helping them, so we're trying. I appreciate Representative Hicks going and helping me with this and taking a look at it. So again, thank you.
Chair Lady Hazelwood.
I might just mention that I understand the dollars that the cities and counties are getting directly, well, it's passed through for the smaller cities and counties, but that those dollars are, there are some parameters around them, and those parameters include infrastructure for water and sewer. So that might be another, and those dollars are going to be available pretty quickly.
Thank you. Any other questions? Number 192, 193. Representative Sparks, you are recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. My requests are pretty simple. $25,000 for the Smyrna senior citizens, and then $25,000 for the Laverne senior citizen. Chairman Charlie Baum and I share Smyrna and Laverne. Laverne senior centers in Charlie's district, the Smyrna's in my district, and I have an itemized list here. For example, they're asking for an automatic handicap door at the front entrance, reseal, restripe the parking lot, new copier, new refrigerator, tables and chairs, and Laverne, 2 large storage containers, dishwasher, electric cooktop, countertop, new commercial refrigerators, roughly almost 3,000, et cetera. So they broke it down pretty good for us, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Sparks, on both of those. Any questions for Representative Sparks? Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank Representative Sparks for this request. But if you remember, on page 9, one of my items is to try to cover with $2 million all of these senior citizens. And I'm sure if we could do that, that would increase your $25,000 request.
I'll take it.
Much larger amount. Thank you.
We'll
Thank you,
take
Mr.
it.
Speaker.
Thank you, sir.
That's a reboot of one of Miller's.
Yeah. Well, I asked him I asked him for the bare minimum, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Representative Miller.
Thank you, Representative Sparks. Thank you, Representative Miller. Next on our list, on page 15, and on this committee, Chairman Zachary, you're recognized on items 228 and 229 and 230.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, my first request is Appropriations Amendment 107 for Helen Ross McNabb Center. As many of you know, Helen Ross is East Tennessee's leading provider of mental health services, substance abuse, social and victim services, and veteran support. They have 21 locations throughout Tennessee, all the way down in Hamilton County in Chairman Hazelwood's area, all the way up to Hamlin County in East Tennessee. They support over 30,000 people in East Tennessee, and this appropriation will look familiar as it's $150,000 recurring to be used specifically for their programs directed toward military service members and veterans. My second one, Mr. Chairman, is Appropriations Amendment 108 for Best Buddies. Many of the members of this committee, this will also look familiar as we have funded Best Buddies before. They work to engage volunteers to create opportunities for one-on-one friendships, employment, leadership development, and inclusive living for those with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And this is a $100,000 non-recurring request. Last but not least is for Heartland NATO. Heartland NATO is a nonprofit that works to support the movie and theater industry, which is one of the hardest hit in this pandemic, as most have been closed and been forced to be closed. And this would be a one-time $10 million recurring that would be used to support Regal, AMC, Carmike, many of those that have been forced to be shut down. And it would be, again, a one-time $10 million request. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you, Chairman Zachary. Any questions for Chairman Zachary? Chairman Zachary, I'm assuming that there is some kind of distribution formulary or something on the Heartland NATO that you could provide or they could provide us.
There is, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. And there is, I didn't go into that detail, but there is a distribution model that's included with this. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Any
Thank
other
you.
questions for Chairman Zachary? Last but not least, we do have a few members who have not made it to the committee chamber yet. And so I do have one budget appropriation amendment that I'm going to present on behalf of my community. It's page 15, item number 226, House Amendment 217. It's for a cybersecurity program housed at Tennessee Tech University. For the last 4 years, Tennessee Tech University has been a leader in cybersecurity. We have defense contracts there as well. They were awarded this amount for 4 consecutive years with the premise that they had to generate additional revenues from the federal government in order to support their cybersecurity programs. They have done that. That has grown now to that $500,000 a year has grown now to be supplemented with over $3 million in annual revenue for cybersecurity to be studied and worked on for our defense department and other branches of the military at Tennessee Tech. And this would just continue that program that we've been doing for the last 4 years. I'm happy for the members to consider it, but recognize that lots of challenges associated ahead of us. Any questions by the members on that or any other amendments? Because we were able to get through the budget appropriation amendments today, last week had to schedule for appropriations amendments committee meeting tomorrow. It will be unnecessary to do that for tomorrow. So tonight on the House floor, you'll hear me make an announcement not to meet tomorrow afternoon since we were able to get through all these. I want to say thank you to the members of the committee as we have heard and seen and presented by our colleagues more than 240 budget amendments. And you don't want to know how much money that was asked, but it was in excess of $400 million. Not to frown upon anyone's budget amendment, ranging anywhere from 1 or 0 budget appropriation amendments to one that was much larger. But anyways, I really appreciate your help. You'll hear from that. We will take all these budget appropriations amendments into consideration once we find the governor's administration amendment comes out for his budget amendment. And so we can see what the final tally will be as far as revenue and resources, not just for bills, but appropriations as well. And I want to thank the members for their patience and brevity in their service. Representative Shaw, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you. I just wanted to ask you, when will we know, if any, at all, of these budget amendments might pass, and what will be the process?
Thank you. As stated last week, the chairmen of finance have encouraged the members of the House to collaborate with their Senate sponsors to ensure that they're filing their amendments on the other side of in the Senate, opposite of this body. Consistency between both bodies and support from the Senate is always ideal. And then over the next several weeks, the chairman, in collaboration with the minority caucuses and leadership, as well as the majority caucus leadership, will also work with the Senate in order to try to parlay these downs based upon that statewide, regional, or local application. We encourage you to communicate with your leadership on either side and tell them how important these are to you. But the actual grading is based upon this presentation and the information that was submitted upon to the body with the appropriation amendments request. If anybody wants the backup or the support documents, you can find those on the dashboard, or you can contact Chairlady Hazelwood's office or mine to get those as well. But that's typically how it's going to be done. This is a new committee in the House, and so it's a new process that we're working through, and we appreciate the members' patience. Representative Miller, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you're right. This is a new committee, and in our communications with the Senate, I'm wondering if the Senate has their appropriation, because I haven't received any request from a senator to support their amendments. So I'm wondering exactly if that process is working in the Senate.
Thank you. The truth of the matter is the process is working in the Senate. They have their staff that has generated the same draft document that you have in front of us with a budget appropriation amendments list. I have not seen that list. I'm not certain if the chair lady has seen that list yet. I see her shaking her head no, but they are communicating internally in the Senate as to what their priorities may be. And we will be communicating with the members of the House what those priorities may be, and where those two circles bisect is where there will be favor found. And so I would encourage you to communicate with all the parties there. Yes, any other questions? All right, seeing none. Members, as I said before, you can check the dashboard as it relates to this committee meeting, or you can contact us as it relates to budget appropriations. Seeing no other comments, I move to adjourn.